Right, so from a shoes point of view on safari, you can see I've got two different types of shoes with me. So these ones, this is what we call a felly, or known as a felly, and this will take you through the majority of the destinations in Africa. So from Monopools to South Africa to the Masai Mara, these kind of shoes, super comfortable. This particular brand is Freedom of Movement, super comfortable, super durable. But then if you're doing something like gorilla trekking, you'll need something that's a little bit more weatherproof. So this is a boot from Helly Hansen. Again, also super comfortable. And when you're trekking for gorillas, going through water and stuff, like I mentioned, you need something that's a little bit more durable and water resistant. Right, so from a safari shirt point of view now, this is obviously down to you as an individual. I prefer these long sleeve shirts. So as we mentioned, sun is a big factor when you're out in safari in Africa. So these long sleeve shirts will protect you from the sun. They've also got a SPF factor built inside of them, and also like a mosquito repellent also built inside. There are many different brands. This is from Craghoppers, but there's many other different brands that you'll find at your local store. And yeah, super comfortable and also very easy to clean and dry. Okay, so long pants essential for going on safari, especially during the colder early morning hours, and then in the evenings where there might be some bugs around. The types of pads that you wear, that's totally up to you. I love these cargo pads, lots of pockets. They're super comfortable, and especially if you're doing things like gorilla trekking, you've got to have comfortable pants for hiking for numerous hours. Okay, so for a first layer, these little puffer jackets, they always go into my bag. They fold up nice and small. These things will keep you super warm, and it's also nice and light. It fits into your luggage quite easily, and yeah, definitely a must-have on every safari. All right, then if you want to layer for the really cold winter mornings, these jackets are phenomenal. So it's nice and big. Like I mentioned, you can layer it so in the mornings when it warms up a little bit, this can go off and you just stay with your normal puffer jacket, or when it cools down again, this goes over. It's got a hoodie as well to keep you warm. So always have one of these jackets to protect you from the wind and the cold on the early mornings and late evenings. Right, now this bit of material here comes in super handy on every safari. This is known as a Kekwai, originating out of East Africa, and this you can use for multiple reasons. You can wrap it around you like a scarf if it's cold in the mornings, or on hot days you can soak this in ice cold water, hang it over you, and it does wonders. So as an item to take with on safari, Kekwai is super helpful for yourself, but also to wrap your cameras in to keep them dust free. Super important item. Okay, hats, super important. You're going to be out in the field for many, many hours every day. And these are the two kind of hats that I kind of prefer to take with me on safari. Your normal baseball cap, again, the sort of design and the makeup of it, up to your personal choice. And then a more sort of floppy hat or broad brim hat for vehicles that don't have roofs, or if you're on a boat a lot of the time, these come in super, super handy. Okay, then for the cold mornings on safari, a beanie is very important. But just because you're coming to Africa does not mean it doesn't get cold. Take a beanie with you if you're traveling during the winter months. And if you like one of these, I can hook you up. Okay, and then the last item that I have is a buff. Now, we can supply you with these, or you can get them at your local stores. Super helpful when you have dusty conditions to cover your face. You can also wrap them around your arms, or even soak them and put them around your neck. Absolute must-have on safari.
So, for the colder regions, Iceland, Svalbard, to places like this, Greenland, there are two types of shoes you will need. Number one, a good hiking boot. So this is Helly Hansen. It's very waterproof. It's very comfortable. It's also very light. So even if you travel with them, very comfortable. This is probably your go-to most of the time. Now, on some of the other trips, like Svalbard and anything with a Zodiac, you're going to need something a little bit bigger. These are the Arctic Sport by Muck. Great boot. I've had these for 10 years. And you're going to need these when you get on and off Zodiacs, because you do step in the water, and the water does come quite high up. So you don't need them insulated. It's a bonus. But something waterproof to about knee height is a must for anything where there are Zodiacs involved. So for the colder areas, first layer from the bottom is a base layer. This is a medium base layer. It's not merino, but what's good with these is you need to look for something that allows your body to breathe for moisture to come out. So something medium like this, but colder regions are going to demand something like merino base layers, which is very, very warm, but it does still allow you to breathe. So wherever you are, Svalbard, Iceland, Greenland, take your pick. When it's cold, base layer is your very first stop. Okay, so with regard to pants for cold weather expeditions, the best is to get a pair of what they call expedition pants. This is from Norröna, and it's a soft shell type material, so it's not waterproof, but it's very splash proof. I have been in full rain and snow with this. Dries very quickly, very movable, so it's very flexible. You can move all the way over with it. It's got zips in all the right places for pockets and for storage, and overall something that you have to have. On a normal expedition of 2 weeks, for example, I'll take 2 of these because you're changing your base layers, your long thermals underneath all the time. These things, expedition pants, absolutely phenomenal. So as we now try and get warmer, the next layer up from your base layer is the mid layer. This is a fleece, and you can get the small zip, the full zip, but this is normally your second layer that you use. The idea is you need a little bit of breathing space between the layers because that's what keeps you warm. It's where the air gets captured and the insulation happens. So a fleece, sometimes on safari, helpful, but for colder regions on top of your base layer, an absolute must. So an alternative to the fleece as your second layer is something like this. It's called the crew mid-layer jacket. And the nice thing here is very windproof compared to the fleece, but it has a fleecy inside. So you're still keeping warm, it cuts the wind. So depending on where you're going, if it's super extreme temperatures, you might want to layer with a fleece and then shells on top. But for something in between, something like this, cuts the wind, waterproof, and has a fleece inside, super handy. Okay, and then another version of the mid layer would be the puffy. So Johan spoke about puffer jackets for safari. I used this one recently up in Serengeti and in the Delta. Phenomenal for morning drives. So for me on safari, this is a morning drive piece of gear. But in the Arctic, Iceland, Svalbard, this goes underneath my layers. So I've had instances where I would have the fleece underneath that the base layer, and then this on top. So you're building up and down depending on how cold it gets. The nice thing on this particular one as well, what I like, inside you've got little pockets. So it keeps space for your room key, your phone, whatever the case is. But overall, puffer jacket is a necessity for any kind of uphill travel. So the next layer up for me would be a soft shell jacket. Now, depending how cold it is, I would layer this on top of my puffy jacket, on top of my fleece, on top of my base layer. What I found on safari is in the afternoons, the shell jacket on its own is great because it's not that warm, but it cuts the wind beautifully. But for colder conditions, Arctic conditions, base layer at the bottom, then a fleece, then my puffy, and then the soft shell over. Depending on the brand you use, there would be a certain amount of waterproofing as well. Helly Hansen, great with waterproofing, so I know this puffer is waterproof, but you can always layer a normal puffer jacket, which is nice and warm, with a shell, which will cut the water out as well. Okay, so this is more for the extreme. You're not going to use something like this on safari. For the cold destinations, when you're coming with Johan and myself to Tromsø, you're coming with Mike and myself to the Arctic voyage where we go to Greenland, or you're visiting Svalbard or Iceland, something like this, a puffer parka. Now, this particular one is 100% waterproof, which is amazing. It's also, I think, a 750 gram filled down. So extremely warm, can layer on top of a bunch of other things. I've tried this with base layer and fleece and puffer and soft shell and then this. So depending on where you're going, a parka, very handy. For example, if you're on the ship in Svalbard or in Tromsø and you just want to step out quickly, you can have a t-shirt underneath, put this guy on and you're sorted. Wind, weather, rain, phenomenal piece of equipment. There's lots of different parkas out there, but make sure you're getting something that's waterproof and that cuts the wind. So for most of the cold weather destinations, you're going to be faced with snow, sleet, rain, and quite nasty wind sometimes. Something like this, it's a 100% rain-proof jacket. This is the Loki range from Helly Hansen. It's very, very thin, and all that it does is it cuts water. Now, the nice thing about this is this jacket folds up to that size. So what's nice here is for safaris, you can take something like this, roll it up, it fits in your camera bag very easily. And also from a packing point of view, something like this for cold weather destinations, snowy destinations, safari, must have. Something that cuts the rain when you really, really need it. Okay, when we're talking about gloves for cold weather expeditions, 2 things to think of. You need a base layer and you need something over the top. This is when it gets really cold. Something like this fits the hand nicely. You're still moving. You can get your hand into your bag to get your camera. A lot of these have a finger index and a thumb where you can actually use your phone at the same time. So it's touch screen compatible. Others, you get to flip the end of the finger over and you can operate your camera. So this is the one that I use. On top of that, we take this one off. You get something like this. So it's a full mitten. That one can fit underneath this. Now, this particularly for very cold destinations. On the top, you have a little pocket. You can put hand warmers in there. So little pockets, right? But what's handy with this is even in very cold weather, you want to protect your hands, you can zip this open, you can pop the thumb out, and then you can still manage your camera with all of this. There's a magnet to hold it back on the front and the side, so you can manage it from there. Couple of things: you need to keep your feet warm, you need to keep your hands warm when you get into cold destinations. So something underneath and something for over the top will go a long way to save that.